welcome to ADHD-Friendly. I'm Patty. I'm an ADHD coach, and my passion is finding ways to tilt that playing field to thrive with ADHD. And I just love the structure of bringing them here and sharing what I do that works for me with you in case it can support you to tilt that same playing field for yourself so that you are on the road to thriving with your ADHD brain wiring. We can do this. So I am on my own again today. I really am impacted when Becca's sick, so she can't be here. I just love having somebody to talk to when I'm recording these. So I have my dog here. I'm going to be talking to her more. She's kind of hanging out, looking out the window. Hopefully she won't bark at any squirrels going by, but welcome. Thank you for joining me. It is episode 145, and today I'm going to be talking about monthly planning. I've talked about this in the past, but I'm just going to break down some initial first steps. I'm going to show you a lot of things. So if you're listening to this, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, ADHD-Friendly, where you'll be able to see all the visuals that I am sharing during this episode. So as I always do, I want to start first by acknowledging new subscribers and current subscribers that are still here. Welcome to the new. Thank you for still being here. For the ones that have been with me, we have 6 new subscribers. So welcome. And thank you for taking a moment to pause your busy life to subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate it. All right, I've got a couple of wins that I'm going to celebrate. First, I've worn this little pair of overalls a number of times, and I thought about it when I got ready today because I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to record this episode in those overalls again. And I've recorded a few episodes in the overalls. First of all, they're stinking comfortable. I just love how easy they are to wear. They're cool. They're like wearing PJs all day. I just love them. But my win is that one of my knit group friends, and my knit group friends, I'm really primarily just friends with inside knit group. There's only one member of the knit group I've done things with outside of knit group. So this is just one of my friends that I see at knit group on Wednesdays. And she texted me individually outside of our group chat text and asked me if I was going this week, and then asked me if I wanted to wear our overalls, because the owner of the knit shop is really the one that inspired this kind of overall frenzy that we've all gone and like purchased overalls. And it was just such a feeling. It was very nostalgic. It reminded me of school, but in a positive way, like that, like, hey, what are you wearing? You want to wear our, our same t-shirts or whatever. And so I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And yes, I'm wearing my overalls. So it just made it this thing. I literally went up to my closet and I grabbed the hanger and I put a little Post-it on it to remind me to wear them on Wednesday, because I literally am so out of sight, out of mind. Even though it was so sparkly, that was on Monday. I knew by today, if I didn't have a visual prompt, I wouldn't remember. So it really did support me to remember to put them on. And I even got over my discomfort of wearing them again on the video. I don't know if I'll wear them again for another episode. But you never know, they're so stinking comfortable, I might. But my win is my social win, and that it just feels so good to have connections that feel like genuine connections, like in real life. So I've been really working very intentionally on that over the last couple of years. And I feel like it's really starting to, it took a long time. It took a lot of discomfort to step outside my comfort zone in some of these areas, but I'm having lunch with friends and going thrifting with friends. And I'm just doing these things that are really making my life feel very balanced and full. So I just wanted to acknowledge, a little bit at a time. And if you're interested in the social challenges episodes, I invite you to go back and look at previous episodes, because I do talk a lot about how challenging it is and some structure that I put in place for myself to support me to get out there and meet people. I have a lot of anxiety around that. So I really talked about that and how I did it and how I set intentions for the last couple of years to continue building it, and what I noticed worked and didn't work along the way. All right. My other win is a boundary win. And this again came from a lot of work on my boundaries, kind of building up my boundaries muscles. It was very uncomfortable. So it was, I'm just going to give a kind of a nutshell description. I had to take my daughter, she needs to have her wisdom teeth taken out. And I took her to an oral surgeon who we'd never met. It was just a referral from our dentist. And everything seemed great. It was, a very nice office, all of that. But after the pitch, which felt like literally, I was sitting in the office with my daughter, and she's 19. So it just, I was like, thankfully she was comfortable with me going in, because I wouldn't want to think about what would have happened if I hadn't gone in with her. But it just felt like I was at a used car sales office where somebody was, kind of like talking up all of these features and things that they were going to do. And I mean, I have 4 kids. I've been through the wisdom teeth thing myself and with kids. And I was just like, okay. Like, I was just like, I don't understand like why this feels like you're selling me on all of these extra, scans and procedures and gadgets and things. And so then like he went and he had a clipboard with a form that he wanted my daughter to sign. And so he's holding the clipboard and he's like, so if you just sign here. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't want her to sign anything. Like, we hadn't even decided that this was the oral surgeon we were going to proceed with. We were having a consultation. And he got pretty not happy with me about holding a boundary for my daughter not to sign it, because I know she's 18, she's 19, she's over 18. So she's legally an adult, but I don't want her signing anything until we decided that to me, it made no sense to sign something until we were ready to move forward. And then sure, if that's your office requirement, let us take it, read it. And then if it makes sense, she'll sign it if that's part of your requirements. But he didn't even give it to her. He kept holding it and kind of like giving her a pen and wanted her just to sign it while I was holding it. And he was doing that whole like circle, like this says this and this says this, but he's jumping around, and it just felt like one of those, like, they're not telling you what you don't know and you don't know what you're signing. And I just thought, why are you pushing the sale here? Why can't we take the form with us and sign it if we come back? It just was so uncomfortable. And then he just started kind of spouting where he went to school and how, how much education he has. And I'm like, I'm not questioning your intelligence. I'm questioning the necessity of her signing a form when clearly it would be nice for us to take it and read it. And so I'm really proud that I held the boundary. It was incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, like literally I had to stop. I said, I can feel myself getting like really overwhelmed right now, because all I'm telling you is that I don't want her signing a form, and you keep pushing her to sign the form and she's not going to do that. And I'm uncomfortable that you're insisting on it when we're not even sure that this is where we're going to get her wisdom teeth taken out. So it took me probably at least an hour to calm down after that. Like, I was just really dysregulated. I never yelled. I stayed very calm, but it was very uncomfortable. And I could tell it made my daughter very uncomfortable. So the whole situation was something that we've really talked about and processed, but I am proud of myself for holding a boundary in a way that I was comfortable, even if the experience left me very uncomfortable. And so I just want to highlight that, it's not always easy holding a boundary. And sometimes you have to hold a boundary where you're not expecting to hold a boundary. Who would ever think going into an oral surgeon's office, you'd need to hold a boundary? But I did. And I was really grateful I was there, because I think on her own, having never been in that situation, she wouldn't have made, and she even told me after, she goes, I just wanted to read it, but he had his hands over it and he wouldn't give it to me. And she's like, I was happy, like, if you guys were talking, if I could just hold it and have read it, maybe I would have signed it. She's like, but he wouldn't give me the clipboard. He kept holding it. And I was like, yeah, it was a very odd situation. So I would, have been very uncomfortable if she was in that room on her own and felt pressured to sign it. And at 19, may have very well have signed it. And maybe no harm would have come, no, it wasn't like this, horrible financial commitment. It was just, this form. I don't even know what it was. He never gave us a copy. He didn't let us look at it after. It was very odd. So we're looking for another oral surgeon. It was just one of those things I want to acknowledge, because it was uncomfortable, but I felt like because I've been working up my muscles a bit over the last few years, I was still able to hold that boundary no matter how uncomfortable it was. So, all right, on to what I purchased this week. I'm still on my goal. So I finished my first of my 3 weeks of not purchasing anything more than $20 that wasn't a need. The only thing I did purchase, ironically, was a bath mat, because when I followed, if you listen to my recent episode, I talked about the recommendation for what to do, cleaning your house wise and keeping up your home chores weekly, monthly, and how I made a whole chart to keep up with it. Well, one of the weekly things was wash your bath mats. Well, I don't do it every week. I hadn't done it in a while. So I was like, all right, I'll wash my bath mats. Well, they fell apart like completely. And like the rubber backing on them completely fell apart. So I don't know if that's because I wasn't washing them regularly, like every week. I don't know if like washing them regularly made them last longer. I don't know, but they were completely useless. So I had to go buy new bath mats, and that was a need because they fell apart, and it wasn't, incredibly sparkly. But I'm hoping these hold. I don't even think these are a much different for like the way that they're made. I don't even know how you would wash them, but I'm still on track for my mani-pedi reward in 2 weeks with my daughter. So I'm excited to celebrate that. But I just thought it was funny that me trying to keep up with cleaning a little bit more with my sparkly new system resulted in the bath mats getting ruined. Whatever, we do the best we can with what we have from where we are, and then we move on. So at least I got some new shiny bath mats that are actually like memory foam and are kind of nice to stand on. They're making that 2-minute toothbrushing a little bit more tolerable because I'm enjoying the distraction of feeling the mat underneath my feet. It's very sparkly. Okay. So now I'm going to just share a tip for this week. It does tie somewhat to the overall topic of the monthly calendar, but I'm going to talk about your ideal work schedule. So not everyone has flexibility in their work schedule, but if you are an entrepreneur, and many of us are, because research shows that up to 75% of people who have their own business meet the diagnostic criteria for ADHD. So whether or not they're diagnosed, and often it's not even showing up as something you would need to go and get support for because you're so entrenched in what you enjoy doing that it's just not showing up in the way it might at a 9-to-5 desk job. But if you are an entrepreneur or solopreneur, or able to structure your own business, maybe you're working from home and you are able to work remotely and have some flexibility in your schedule. What is your ideal work schedule? What does it look like when you think about, structuring your overall day? What does it look and feel like? Or even when you think about structuring the week, right? So I do feel like Monday has a different feel from Tuesday. It feels different from Wednesday. Every day has a different feel for me. And I have different energy on Monday than I do on Thursday or Friday. And so I have really spent a lot of time over the last few years structuring my ideal work week and thinking about what it would look like and feel like. So about 5 years ago, I realized I really needed to change my work schedule. And I started navigating towards what I created as my blank master schedule. It was like my blank ideal schedule. And I'm just gonna, again, this is one of those visuals I'm gonna hold up. It has a lot of colors. Colors work for me. This is most likely not something, if you look at it, that's going to work for you at all. But I do want you just to explore, what would it look like if you were going to start playing with your schedule? Would you, kind of, me, I'm an external concrete visual person. I want to get it out onto paper in some way. Even though I made this online, I would print it and look at it and notice how I felt about it. So here it is. I have my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. I have the 7:30 to 8 blocked as a play fun time. This is my coffee and reading time in the morning. So I want to remember that that's my intention for that time and not let it I'm a morning person, so I can easily find myself at my desk when I really want to be giving myself time to charge up for the day. My light blue time is my admin planning time. I really intentionally started blocking that. I wanted that for Monday and Wednesday mornings because as a solopreneur, I run my own business. I needed time to really keep up with the administrative tasks for my business. And if I'm meeting with clients, which I was doing about 5 years ago, I was meeting pretty much every hour of the workday with clients. I was meeting with 20 to 23, I think, clients a week, which there's just no time. And then if somebody has to cancel and reschedule, it just was constantly bleeding into any of the time I was trying to get anything else done. And at that time, I was doing all of my own reminders. I was doing all of my own intake paper. Like everything was me having to keep up all the systems. I've outsourced some of that with my admin support, but it was just too much. It wasn't sustainable. And I wasn't enjoying that many hours of my week being accounted for. So I started building in intentional blocks of admin time. And then I started building in what client openings would I have then, right? So like the light green are client time, the dark green were for group sessions I was scheduling, and the orange were for my students because my high school and middle school students couldn't meet earlier in the day. Now that's something I've intentionally stopped offering. I don't work with for the most part, high school and middle school students anymore because of the need to schedule so late in the day. It just wasn't working for my brain. I really did my deep, thoughtful work in the morning. And then in the afternoons now, when I come back to my office, I'm doing something creative. I'm doing something that's firing up my brain, and it's interesting because doing this student work in the afternoon was very fatiguing. And I just found that it took so much out of the morning that I was trying to hold back to reserve for the afternoon. It just wasn't serving me. And so I intentionally, as those students transitioned, whether they like went to college and I continue working with them, or they transitioned from middle to high school and felt like they had a good schedule, or it just didn't fit into their schedule because of sports or what have you. I didn't pick up new high school and middle school students because I was intentionally scaling that back. And so now my schedule is very much aligned with this. The only thing that's different is I don't have the orange student space anymore. And I do have the afternoon. The afternoon pink is my knit group time. So when you think about what it would look and feel like, I really do encourage you, get it out of your head and into something that you can see and navigate towards. This schedule took me a full 2 years before I was pretty close. It's not perfect. It never is. I have clients that have to move around sometimes, and it still is a work in progress, but holding that boundary. And for years I had like on my schedule, no clients here when I was like talking to new people about moving into a site, like, do not give this away. Do not offer this. And it started with no weekends, no evenings. It was like the beginning of my coaching, but then I kind of filled everything else in between. And then I realized, okay, I don't want late afternoon students. And then when I do have students, I really thought about what days would work the best for me. And as much as possible, I navigate towards that. It's not always perfect because I do have students that one semester their schedule works and the following semester I have to move them to a different day, and it's not my ideal student day, but I'll make it work. So again, it does have some flexibility, but thinking about what your ideal schedule is when your brain is able to activate most easily, building in time to do those administrative tasks so that they're getting done and they're not piling up and draining your energy as a toleration. Really thinking through what would help you to do what you're trying to do for your business in a way that creates the flow, right? It lets you be creative. It lets you do the things that you really want to be doing, and also builds the time in for those tasks that maybe you have to do. So you're doing them when your brain's most easily able to do them. So that's it. Just wanted to share my ideal schedule and really think about invite you to think about what works for you. And I'll just finish. I've shared this before. I incentivize my week by building in after lunch on Friday. I get to take a half day on Friday if I finish all of my administrative tasks. So I do that pretty consistently now because I love knowing that when I go to lunch on Friday, I'm done and I get like a longer weekend because of it. So that structure has really helped to hold me accountable. Otherwise, I'm still here Friday afternoon working on administrative tasks and I really don't want to do it. So I'm very motivated by my ideal schedule because I can see it. Okay, on to how to start monthly planning. So I know I want to acknowledge this is difficult for our brains. We're asking our brain to stretch. You might be looking at this thinking, Patty, I don't even know what's happening this afternoon. I can't think about next month. So this episode itself is coming out on July 31st. And that's why it was very sparkly for me to share this because, I love to tie a topic release with when it's most relevant. So right now, the first thing that I would encourage you to do when you think about planning for the month is just think about the month of July. Think about the month that is wrapping up and what you intended to do and what didn't get done. That's it. Once you start thinking of some things, I want you to get it out of your head and into something to write on. So get out just a sheet of paper, get out your planner, whatever you use to plan. If you don't use anything to plan, start with what you have, whether it be a paper, a blank calendar you can print from the computer, whatever works for you. But literally just start writing down anything from the current month that didn't happen that really needs to happen, right? So these aren't things that it's like, oh, one day I want to. No, they don't go on your list. These are the things that absolutely have to happen. So they're going to be on your August list. The next thing is to look at the upcoming month. So this is where I'm going to kind of share some of the things that I do, and I'm going to hold up some visuals. And so before we get to the coming month, one last thing. I have a little tool that I've started using. I'm just playing around with creating something like this to review my previous month. And then I score things. So I literally ask myself, like, what were my goals for the past month? And there's a place for me to write them down and a place for me to score how I did with that. A place for me to see what significant tasks were on my list. And then I can score like how I did completing them. It gives me a chance to think about if something didn't get done, what got in the way, and write that down. So having a way to review your month can be very sparkly because that's what helps us see patterns. I've just started this structure around my monthly planning this year very intentionally. I was not doing monthly planning as consistently and structured as I am now. It's definitely been a game changer. And it's still very sparkly, so I do find myself looking forward to it, but I get so much from it. It helps my weekly planning go faster. It helps my daily planning go faster. So it really is paying off in big ways. So reviewing the previous month is really important, thinking about what worked, what didn't work, and what would you change for the coming month to make this month work even better. Okay, so now when you look at the coming month, so I'm going to hold up a blank August calendar, and you'll notice if you're looking at this, I've got company coming into town 2 weekends in August. I've got one of my kiddos' birthdays in August, and I'm running my live personal owner's manual course. The last 3 sessions are happening. These are like the big anchor things for the month that I need to plan for. So just seeing this reminds me like, oh, I need to plan for company. I need to make sure the guest room is ready. I need to make sure I go shopping for any food or anything I need for that. This urgency for preparing and making sure I'm ready for all my slides and everything that I need, the tools and the templates for this group, or for this course, I should say, creates urgency because I'm not going to have the weekends. A lot of times I'll do that kind of thing on the weekends where I could just kind of add slides while I'm watching something in the background. It's very easy. And I'm redoing a lot of my slides. So I want to make sure that these are done if they're not by the time August comes around. And then for my daughter's birthday, I want to make sure that I've, get my daughter a gift, make sure I'm, planning her birthday dinner, whatever we're going to be doing. It just helps me at the beginning of the month to see what's coming up and navigate towards it so that I'm not as likely to be kind of blindsided by things, which happened all the time before I started my planning, where it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was blank, or, oh, I totally forgot this blank. So it just gives me a way to connect with. So from that list of things I've now got, or from my monthly calendar, I now have a task list, both from the things that didn't get done in July and the things that I know are coming up in August because I can see them. You might have your car registration due. You might need to schedule an appointment with the doctor because it's time for a medication check-in or your annual physical or whatever, your 6-month dental cleaning, whatever it is. Adding those to your list now so that you can see what's coming up and make a plan for them is what we're looking at doing. And again, I'm just going over broad strokes here. I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty of the monthly planning. If that interests you, I do have the ADHD planner and course available for sale on my website. I'm just kind of breaking down some of the initial steps just to start, right? We don't want to overwhelm, we want to just begin. Okay, so then and this is I'm creating this new tool for my deluxe planner I'm creating, but I find it very sparkly because it gives me it's just kind of extrapolating on my weekly planning tool, where now I have a place to list my August 2024 to-dos for the month, and they'll go up top with little time circles to estimate how much time I think it's going to take to do each task. And then I have down here the weeks that I might do those tasks. So I've got this very simple flag system that I use where I have written on each one, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And what I do is once I have this list filled in, it's not done yet because when I'm recording this, it's a couple of weeks before. I always do these 2 weeks in advance, but I'll go and I'll flag them for the week that I think I want to work on the different tasks. And it lets me move them around. So I can see like, oh my gosh, like that's too heavy for how much time I think I'm going to have, or that's too close to that deadline. I would give myself a little bit more time. It just helps me to look at what's coming up and decide what makes sense with the time I have to target those tasks during the month. And then I take them and I'm going to share my weekly planning tool. So my weekly planner, I just put these little tabs here for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. The last part of my monthly planning process is to go into my weekly planners and take the list of things that I've identified for week 1 and write them down here in week 1. And then I go to week 2 and I write the week 2 tasks. Week 3, I write the week 3 tasks. Week 4, I write the week 4 tasks. I don't do anything else with it. I just go ahead and write them down so that I already know when I'm planning to do them. And then when I do my weekly planning and I pick up my weekly planner, it's already outlined for the first week. I already have those tasks for my monthly to-dos, and I'm just adding anything else that I can see based on what I have scheduled that week. It makes my weekly planning so much easier and so much more streamlined because I've already started. Takes me about a month. Takes me about no, that wouldn't happen. Takes me about an hour to do my weekly or my monthly planning, I should say. And now my weekly planning, it's really down to about 40 minutes once a week. It gives me so much to spend that time looking at my schedule. I'm much more likely to be prepared for things. My brain is much more relaxed and calm going through these things. So I'm not draining my energy with stress and building up that stress, the neurochemicals in my brain that are really not good and very toxic for our brain. It just gives so much calm. I always think of it as those little parachutes that they would play with in kids' gym classes, and you lift them up and all the kids like them will like bend and hold them down. I think of that as all of the thoughts and things we're trying to do in our brain as like the parachute get in danger of blowing away, and all of the little steps around planning, pinning it down. So now we know we have it. It just creates a sense of grounding and calm. It's the gift that keeps on giving throughout the month. So I just invite you to think about, if you're ready to start your monthly planning, I shared a few how-to tips just to get started. And as with everything that I share, I invite you to take what works for you and leave the rest behind. Something is more than nothing. It's always better just to start, meet yourself where you are, do what you can with what you have. And then just notice what works and what you want to continue, because that's where you're going to be really able to get some traction and forward momentum going. Okay, now for the book of the week. It is Horse by Geraldine Brooks. Geraldine apparently wrote a Pulitzer Prize winning book called March. This was my book club book. I would probably not have picked this up and read it on my own. I did enjoy it. It was historical fiction, which is one of my favorite genres to read. Took place during kind of current time, like 2019, took place a little bit in the 1950s. And then the majority of the book happened when this horse, that is about primarily a single horse called Lexington, who apparently is one of the most famous horses to ever live. And he lived during the time of the Civil War. So if that type of story interests you, overall, I enjoyed it. It wasn't one of my favorite books, but I did enjoy it. It's a pretty hefty book. I spent most of the weekend reading it because that's what I usually do. So it's fresh in my mind for book club. And I put myself a little behind the 8 ball there because it was a pretty hefty book and I wasn't expecting that. So probably should have previewed it a little bit, but it did get me back into reading my physical books because I wasn't able to get it on audio or ebook. So I had to just sit and read it, which was a challenge, but it got me right back into reading physical books in a good way because I picked up another one and read it already in the first 2 days of this week. And that'll probably be the book I share next time because I loved it. It was a quick read. All right, my quote for the week. This is from Henry Winkler. Henry was on the Smartless podcast. And this quote had me pausing it and running to my desk to grab paper to write down this quote because it was so good. So Henry is pretty well known for having dyslexia, and he's written children's books where they have a special font that makes the weight of the letters stay on the page more easily for people with dyslexia to be able to read them with more ease. He's just an amazing man. But this is his quote. He said, "There is not one way to do anything. There is your way. And your way," this gets me emotional. It says, "Your way is as valid as any other." Sorry, your way is as valid as any other. It just really spoke to me because that's what I literally am always saying with my work with my clients, with my work with personal owners manuals. A personal owner's manual is all about capturing your way. If you try to do things the way that work for other people, it's not going to work. You have to do it your way. Thanks, Henry. Okay, that's it for this episode. As always, just hold on to what's sparkly, guys. Make it work for you. That's it for now. Have a great week. See you next time. Tally ho.